Folks, I was just watching a little bit of Bennett DeSage's review of New Cutie Honey, who I've done an animated girls profile confidential on, and it got me thinking. It got me thinking about something that's going to be happening real soon. As we know, the very popular Ghost in the Shell is going to be getting a live action adaptation here in the States. And it's starring Scarlett Johansson in the lead role. Now, I know a lot of people are not too thrilled with this decision at the fact that she's going to be playing the lead role, the lead is going to be playing the role of the lead protagonist. Now, I think there's one thing we have to understand. Whenever our country or other countries adapt something from other countries to be made into movies, either here or in Japan or Europe or whatever, sometimes they adapt it to the point that it fits into their culture. They basically, as it's dubbed, as we call it here in North America, it's called Americanizing it. We Americanize certain properties so that we can understand it. Now, again, I know there's a lot of anime fans that outcried and still outcry at the fact that Scarlett Johansson's been dubbed for the lead role. But let me tell you what I think caused that to happen. Like I said, let me tell you what I think caused that to happen. It was her role in Lucy, despite whether you liked it or not. It was her role in this movie that got her the part. That, and of course, her role as Black Widow in the Avengers and in the Avengers series, as well as Captain America and Iron Man and such, that got her the role as well. But it was mostly this, I think, that really helped out, because when you look at Lucy and you kind of compare it to what Ghost in the Shell is like at sometimes, then yeah, you pretty much get the idea of why they probably chose her to be to take the lead role of Major Major Motoko, if you will, or Major Motoko. Uh, yeah, Major Motoko. Probably makes you realize why they gave her that lead role. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that it's probably the best role they could have given her. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, they could have given it to somebody else. I'm just saying that if you have a studio coming out and saying, "Hey, we're going to be the ones that are going to do a live action adaptation or a live action big screen adaptation of one of the most popular anime movies of all time," then you should know by then that they're going to do it in a way that Americanizes it. It'd be like if how do I put this? Let me see here. It'd be like if they took X-Men. Now, we know the X-Men cartoon series, the X-Men franchise is known around the world, right? And yes, I'm not going to deny there is an X-Men anime. I should know because I own it. I own the X-Men anime. But let me explain this. It'd be like if a studio decided to take the X-Men anime or the X-Men into their world, into a live action feature of their own, not just the live action movies that 20th Century Fox and Marvel did, well, mostly 20th Century Fox, but it would be their way. It'd be like if Japan decided, "Hey, we're going to make our own X-Men movie, and it's going to be X-Men. We're going to call it X-Men, but oh, by the way, we're not going to call Wolverine or Logan, and we're not going to call Cyclops or Scott Summers or Phoenix Jean Grey or Jean Grey or Rogue or Storm. You get the idea." We're not going to call him that. We'll call him this name. We'll call him that name. We'll call him this. We'll say this and that and that. And oh, this is their power compared to this power compared to the original. And that's their power. Basically, they would change it up a little bit. If not mostly by name, they would change it up. And maybe they would change it up to the point that the powers would be different. They would basically be localizing it for their country, for their area. They basically localizing the X-Men franchise if they wanted to, if they wanted to do their own version of X-Men, and if you will, for their country, for their providence and all that. That would be localizing it. Like here in America, when we do something, it's called Americanizing it. They'd be, I don't know how you say it, they'd be Japanized. They'd be, or I don't know how you would say it. They'd be, I can't even think of a proper word to say. They'd be Japanning it. Let's put it that way. They'd be Japanning it like we would be Americanizing. So basically, that's probably the best example. If they wanted to, like I say, do their own version of X-Men, but with different characters that would represent like Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean Grey and Storm and Rogue, but the backgrounds would be different, and maybe the powers would be similar but different in a way that if you were to see it, you'd be like, well, that's not the X-Men I know. I mean, I know that's supposed to be who I think it is, but that's not really how the powers work, or that's not the real origin of da da da. So you could kind of understand, so you can kind of see maybe in a sense, why something like, let's say, Ghost in the Shell is getting Americanized in a sense with someone like Scarlett Johansson in the lead. Because if they were to go and do a full-on adaptation, that's fine. But I think studio-wise, if you have a major studio wanting to get something like this out, they're going to want to have a big name attached to it. And like I said, I think movies like Lucy, mostly Lucy, I think, in my opinion, along with the Avenger movies and the Captain America, Iron Man movies, helped establish Scarlett Johansson in this role. I mean, heck, she's even getting voice roles now for movies like the live-action Jungle Book, and then later on this year, Sing. So, what does that tell you? Basically, the point I'm trying to make is I know there's a lot of people that are not happy that Ghost in the Shell is going to have someone like Scarlett Johansson in the lead. And I know people are still fighting that. They'd rather have an American, in either an under-the-radar or semi-well-known American, Asian American, or Japanese American in that role. And I can understand that completely. But if you're going to Americanize it, in a sense, but stay true to the source material, hopefully, then you shouldn't really be too angry about it. I mean, yeah, they might change her name up a little bit, or maybe they'll kind of loosely adapt something to where she was created by a Japanese scientist, and she was given that name that she has in the anime. I'm just saying, but if they loosely adapt it in a sense to whether, well, mostly her origin's a little bit different to Americanize Ghost in the Shell, then that's what they got to do. Something like, now, speaking of possible Americanized live act, now speaking of the possibility, now speaking of Ghost in the Shell, I should say, this does open the door for other potential animes to get adapted properly into live action film. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, Brian, have you seen Dragon Ball Evolution? I don't have to see Dragon Ball Evolution to know that in the eyes of a lot of people, it was crap. It's like whoever did the Americanized version for that movie I will admit, did not stay true to what made Dragon Ball Dragon Ball. I will give it that. But this is why I look at it. Right now, we are in an era of movies, of motion pictures, to where directors, producers, and screenwriters come from my generation of the 80s and the 90s. and they have a better understanding of what fans want. Even if they have to Americanize certain things, kind of Americanize, kind of change up some origins, like let's say with Ghost in the Shell, there's no doubt they're gonna switch up the origin of the main character for to fit here in a sense, but stay true to what made Ghost in the Shell, but hopefully stay true to the source material that made Ghost in the Shell Ghost in the Shell, made it the phenomenon it is. You know, we are now in that time frame where a proper adaptation can be done. Now, like I said, I don't know who. Now, I don't know who was behind the Dragon Ball movie, Evolution movie, but either if they were from my generation or not, they didn't know much about Dragon Ball. They pretty much said, "Oh, here's an anime. Let's do this." They didn't do it right. This is why I think I will agree that when you hear that live action movies based on animes are getting put onto the big screen, but mostly located in places like Japan, that's pretty much understandable because they're going to stay true to what made that anime what it is. But again, like I said, nowadays we're in a situation where things are getting better. I mean, a lot of people have even said that the Transformer movies, especially Age of Extinction, got a little better, are basically starting to stay more true to what made them what they are. You got Marvel Studios, of course, Marvel under the Disney banner, but Marvel Studios on its own, yes, it's their properties, but they're staying true to what made these characters what they are. They've stayed true to what made the stories adapting what they are. You know, so the question is, can a proper live action anime or live action movie adaptation of an anime be done right? Well, I think Ghost in the Shell is going to be a good example. It's going to hopefully be the first step in that direction. Because even with someone like Scarlett Johansson being cast in the lead role as the main protagonist, and maybe having the origin kind of loosely uh, changed a bit, and maybe having the original origin loosely changed a bit to kind of Americanize that portion of it for this culture, for this audience, then that's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely good because hopefully they're going to stay true to the original source material. Maybe there's going to be a few changes, like I said, to Americanize it here and there to keep it like westernized or to keep it, kind of put somewhat of that westernness into it. But I look at it this way. I look at mainly 10% of the film to be sort of Americanized, westernized, if you will, but a majority of it to hopefully, but a majority of it to stay true to what made the movie what made Ghost in the Shell the phenomenon what it is today. I truly think so. I truly think that 10% of it possibly is going to be sort of Americanized, westernized to kind of make it more understandable here in North America. But I also believe 90% of it, hopefully, if things are done right, stay true to what made Ghost in the Shell the phenomenon it is today. I really do. And again, this opens the door possibly. This opens the door to many possibilities. Bennett the Sage was did his review of New Cutie Honey back in 2014, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. And he was right about one thing, and this is why I like Cutie Honey myself. It's the fact that it showed how a magical girl anime, even one done for the older, more mature audiences, can be done right and can be enjoyable in the same vein. Can be done right and made enjoyable and entertaining. Now, we know that they did a live action Cutie Honey movie in Japan. So here's the question. Even though they did one in Japan, could one be done here in the States? Well, I would say if Ghost in the Shell proves to be a success, And if history has shown us anything in recent years of how adaptations should be done properly, especially if you got Marvel or maybe even 20th Century Fox, let's face it, with the right people behind them, or right people behind these properties, directors, producers, and all that, then yeah, I really think something like a Cutie Honey live action movie here in North America could be done correctly and properly and could stay true to the source material. I mean, Cutie Honey is one of those animes and mangas that if you would adapt here in North America, all you'd have to do is change up the names of some of the characters, like like the family she's with, like the family she lives with. All you'd have to do is change up some of their names to be more Americanized, but stay true to the source material. And people that are fans of the anime and the manga here in the states would pretty much know, hey, this is Cutie Honey. The only thing that's changed is the American, like the location or like the Americanized location of where they live, as well as the fact that the names are more American, North American wise than the original versions. But it's basically staying true to what made Cutie Honey. And I think that's the main thing. And if the right people were to get behind doing a live action Cutie Honey movie here in the States, hey, and the only thing, like I said, they would change is the localization of where they live, of where the characters live, and just the name of some of the characters that Honey is aligned with, then so be it. I think it could be done right. Because mostly the one thing fans have worried about the most, and I said this just moments ago with Ghost in the Shell, is staying true to the source material. What made it good? What made people fans of it? And I think if they would have ever considered doing a Cutie Honey here in North America, with the only changes being like where they're located at city wise and just the name of the character, some of the names of the characters, then I think, but stay true to what made Cutie Honey. I think it could be a huge hit. I really do. I even think the same thing with Revolutionary Girl Utena. Heck, if they were to do a live action adaptation of the freaking movie itself, which was a retelling of the origin anyway, and the only thing you would have to change up is maybe a few of the names, if you will. Like Utena, you could probably keep and everything. Akira or Okuro, maybe you'd have to change up to maybe Alicia or something like that. Even if they changed up Okuro's name, I think that's her name. If they just changed up some of the names to where they'd be like Americanized versions of their anime versions, then I think it could work. I really do. As long as they stay true to what made Utena and what made the Utena anime movie one of the most talked about movies, with one of the most talked about WTF endings ever. If they stay true to that, and all that, all they do is Americanize the names and maybe the locales and all that, then I think it could work. Just stay true to the source material. I mean, can you imagine if they were to get someone like, let's say, who's another young actress that's really, hitting her strides right now? That's really knocking it out of the park. Let's say someone like Emily Watson. Well, no, not Emily Watson. Well, maybe her, but who else? Who's in? I mean, can you imagine you take someone like Emily Watson or or even Anne Hathaway, and you put them in that role of Utena. Can you imagine the people's reactions? They would see a scene similar to the anime movie, to where one of those actresses was to end up in this, all of a sudden, this transformation car wash, where next thing you know, they go in, you see the sequence, and the next time you see them, in a sense, they come out and they're nothing more than a car. And it's a recreation of that scene. Can you imagine an actress of like Anne Hathaway or Emily Watson or Jennifer Lawrence, one of them, playing the role of Utena, going into that kind of a sequence, being told by the director, this is what happens. Now, one of the things I might think they might change with a sequence like that is they might still have the character of Utena if they were to that if they were to do that, if they were to recreate that scene in a live action adaptation of the anime movie that is. I think the only thing they might change is having the character still speak with the love interest through the radio. Instead of having the radio be, just, the two shadow girls, if you will, talking, I honestly think that the one thing they might change is having the character of Utena still speaking with the other. So that's what I think might be the only change they would do. But I honestly believe that just like with Cutie Honey, that if they get the right people behind it, directors, writers, producers, and they decided to adapt the anime movie, and not just the anime itself, but the anime movie, which basically was a retelling of the origin, and in my opinion, got people interested in the Utena, got people reinterested or interested for the first time in the Utena franchise, with probably the most talked about WTF ending ever. If someone wanted to recreate that, remake that into a live action movie here in North America, and again, like I said, done right with the right people behind it, then I think honestly it could work. Because like I said, the only thing they would have to maybe westernize, Americanize would be some of the names, the locales, and I think the only other change I think would be instead of the Shadow Girls playing music or whatever, being doing the radio broadcast, then instead you would have the Utena. I think they would have the Utena character speaking with the Akira character or Akuro character, her love interest, if you will, through the radio. I think that would be the only change. So I think hopefully if Ghost in the Shell is done right with the right people behind it, despite the Americanized of maybe the origins and maybe the name or something like that. But if they stay true to what made Ghost in the Shell Ghost in the Shell, then I think it opens the door for things like Cutie Honey to go in that same pathway to where all you'd have to do is just localize and Americanize, like I say, Americanize, Westernize the names, the locales, but stay true to what made Cutie Honey, and the same with Utena. I think those two, if Ghost in the Shell is done correctly and improves to be a huge success, I think could really help out. Now, of course, there are other animes as well that people would like to see into live action movies if they stay true to the source material, and the only thing you Americanize maybe is the names and the locales. I think the other one would be Cowboy Bebop. And I think that's one people have been wanting for a long time. And I think Ghost in the Shell is going to prove to be that big door opening for something like that to be taken. So to me, I look at it this way. If they stay true to the source material, but the only thing they Americanize and Westernize are the names and the locales, I don't think you have a problem. I don't think there won't be much of a problem whatsoever. Because I could see movies like Cowboy Bebop. I could see animes like Cowboy Bebop, Paprika, uh, Avalon, the Avalon series, if you will. I could see these being done. I could see these being done um, correctly if the only thing they do is Americanize and localize. Like I said, I can see those being done properly if the only thing they Americanize and localize is the names and the locales. That's about it. Because as long as they stay true to the source material, I don't. And what made these anime franchises and manga franchises, the success and phenomenons they are, I don't think people will have a problem with it as long as it stays true to what made it what it is. I really do. And there's so many other animes out there. I mean, Princess Mononoke, I think, could be done really well as a live action film if it stays true to its source material. And like I said, the only thing you change up is maybe the names and the locales. That's it. So, in my opinion, though, I think the main purpose, and I know I sound like a broken record here, but I think the main thing is if they stay true to the source material a majority of the time, for 90% of the time, and only 10% of the film is changed to match the location, like Americanized and Westernized to match, the country or the countries, the location that basically the movie's being seen in, then I think it could work. I mean, heck, Disney has proven that with Zootopia. They proved that with Zootopia. There is a scene with the newscasters that basically the newscasters are changed up to match different countries or different locales. So if Disney could do that with Zootopia to match up different cultures, then I think in a sense, still stay true to what made Zootopia Zootopia, then I think if they stay true, if a studio stays true to the source material, and all they do is change up the names and the locales, then I think a live-action adaptation of the anime Ghost in the Shell, the anime manga Ghost in the Shell, as well as the ones I've mentioned, Cutie Honey, Utena, Cowboy Bebop, Angelico, Eva whatever its name is, 3.33, Paprika, the Appleseed series, if you will. Yeah, Appleseed Alpha series, whatever. I think if done right, can really prove to be a huge, huge success. All they'd have to do is stay true to the source material. Don't screw it up. Is basically what a lot of people worry about. And I don't think, hopefully nowadays, we will get that problem. I think a lot of studios, if they saw the abomination that was Dragon Ball Evolution, I think they've learned a lesson. I think they've realized if they're going to do an anime, a live action adaptation of an anime or manga, do it right. Yes, change the names if you have to, change the locales if you have to, but stay true to the source material and what made that franchise the success it is. So that's all I'm going to say, though, on animes that could get potential live action adaptations if staying true to the source material. Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. What other animes do you think could be done right? And again, what do you think? What other animes do you think could be done right? If they stay true to the source material, and the only thing they Americanize or localize is the names and the locations. What animes do you think could be a huge success if the only thing they change is the names and the locales to be more regional? Let me know down below, comment if you like, and I am out.